This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 246 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, we're going to dive into why Instagram matters for bloggers. And before we do that, I want to make sure that if you haven't already grabbed my Instagram engagement guide, that you do so. You can just hop over to Instagram and send me a DM at Jenny_Melrose and just let me know that you want that Instagram engagement guide. It is going to help you set up your profile so that it is top-notch, ready to attract the right audience to you so that you can actually utilize the people that are coming to you, as well as continue to grow the engagement that you have on that account already. So make sure that if you haven't already, send me a DM and we will make sure to send that directly to you. Again, that's Instagram at Jenny_Melrose. Okay. So I really want to dive into this topic about why Instagram matters for bloggers, because as a dinosaur blogger, which is what I considered myself, my former site, The Melrose Family, was created in 2009. So again, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth, Instagram didn't even exist back then. Instagram, as it continued to grow and did become something, The Melrose Family I wasn't entirely on Instagram right away. It took me some time to get there. And when I did get there, I didn't understand the purpose of the platform. As an OG blogger, the purpose was always to try to drive page views, to try to drive traffic. And there was no direct connection between Instagram and doing so. We could see it with Pinterest, we could see it with SEO, we could see it with Twitter, Facebook. You could drop links and people could click, and then you got page views and you got traffic and you got an audience. But that was not the way that Instagram was set up. So for a very long time, I dragged my feet on creating an Instagram account that would help me build my brand and would help me as a blogger. Now, that was 2009. It is now 2021, and Instagram is even more important than it ever was in the past. And we're going to talk about exactly why. Now, the first question we need to answer is, why is Instagram better than other social media platforms? So here's the first thing that I need you to understand about Instagram. It is 5 platforms in one. Now, I want to make sure I preface everything about this episode in saying that I am not telling you that you should spend all of your time on Instagram. I do not want you to build your entire business on Instagram and not have an email list and not have a blog and not have things that you actually own. Make sure that we are really, really clear on that, because you have heard me say over and over again, do not build your entire business on rented property. And that is exactly what Instagram and any other social media platform is. So I want to make sure we're clear on that. But let's go back to this idea of 5 platforms in one. So Instagram has IGTV, which of course is similar to YouTube. It has Reels, which is similar to TikTok. It has Stories, which is similar to Snapchat. It has IG Live, which is similar to Facebook Live. And then, of course, it has the traditional Instagram feed, which was known for its photo sharing app that it was. Now, of course, in recent months, we have heard that Instagram is transitioning. It's transitioning to more of a video-oriented application social media platform. And we have seen that. I know a lot of people heard that come out, especially a lot of my food bloggers and kind of those that were not creating video over there or creating Reels kind of panicked and got very upset at the idea that, well, Instagram's changing and I'm not going to use it anymore. That's totally up to you. But you have to understand, it's their platform. We saw the writing on the wall. You are seeing that they are pushing out Reels. You are seeing that that is what is in your feed. And you're also seeing that that's what's bringing new followers, new engagement to your account. So if you haven't dove into Reels and understanding how video is going to become even more important on Instagram, make sure you go back to previous episodes on the podcast where I talked with Brittany Crossan about Instagram Reels. We also talked with Natasha about Instagram Reels. There's a lot of different information out there about making sure on how you can make Reels work for you and your brand. You do not have to reinvent the wheel with those. So we are needing to understand that with it being 5 platforms in one, it makes it easier for people to connect and get on there and be able to see all the different levels of content that you have. And you can put it all in one place. So that is one of the very first reasons that, of course, it is a better social media platform, because it combines more than just one in one place. It also allows you to build your brand when you approach it with the intention of 4 pillars of content. Now, you'll remember that in a previous episode 237, I talked about the 4 pillars of content, which can help you build your brand, help you understand what type of content you should be putting out, whether it's going to inspire, whether it's going to educate, whether it is going to entertain, or whether it's going to advocate. Those were our 4 pieces of content. I dove in much deeper explaining what those pillars look like and how you can actually use them to benefit you with specific examples of clients of how they are using them in episode 237. So I do want you to make sure that you go back and listen to that if you're not really sure what I'm talking about when it talks about these 4 pillars of content. But Instagram is actually giving you that opportunity to let people in and understand who you are. Too often when I had the Melrose family, a lot of food bloggers and DIY bloggers stood behind the content and tried to not let their personal into it. But what then happens is there's a disconnect. People are looking for more than the perfect. A food blogger who has a perfect kitchen and doesn't have any mess and just seems to be able to pull it all off and looks like it's photographed in a world-renowned restaurant is not someone that maybe your typical audience that you're trying to connect with and draw in, that mom that has 5 kids running around and a mess in the kitchen, can actually relate to. So when you're able to pull in that personal brand, that's what makes all the difference. And we've talked about this in the past, where I've talked about that Instagram Stories is one of the absolute best places for you to be able to pull that audience in and show more of your personal brand, who you are, what your life actually looks like, rather than it always being the highlight reel that we've become so used to seeing on Instagram in the feed. People want to see that you're messy and you have things going on in your life that don't always make it easy, and they want to know what you're up to outside of what your business is. Because again, if people are going to buy into who you are and your brand, they want to know all the ins and outs. It's why we watch reality TV, right? We want to know all the different things. And Instagram Stories are those daytime dramas that you want to sit down and watch and see, okay, what is she doing? How can I connect to her? What is she up to now? It makes you a real person when you're using Instagram Stories and helps you build your brand that way. So it is really important that you try to continue to use that piece of it so that you can connect even greater with your audience. It also allows you to engage directly with your audience via DMs without being slimy. And again, I rely heavily on Instagram Stories for this. It gives me an opportunity to create that engagement that we so desperately need. And we don't only need that for ourselves, we also need that for our audience to have that sort of community that we have looked for. In the past, there was a sense of community when you would create a blog post. People used to use comments in sections on blogs, and they would ask you, what about this and how about that? And they would support you and they would say great things. We don't see that anymore. It used to be that there were Facebook. Same thing would happen. There would be all sorts of comments and interactions and things that happen on Facebook. It's not happening because people aren't seeing it. But now you have the opportunity to actually still continue to do that on Instagram. And it can happen in even more intimate fashion by getting people into your DMs, by having those conversations and really diving deeper with them about what it is that you are helping them solve, how you can help them and continue to make the content that you create better for them. So when you are using Instagram stories, you're able to get into the DMs. Now, the way in which you do that is not a way in which you're going to be slimy in order to have that interaction. You're not doing the, hey girl, I saw that you were using this new makeup. Oh, you should totally try this face cream. No. That's not what we're doing. We're not hey girling people. Instead, what we are doing is, like I talked about back in episode 184, I talked about how to get people into your DMs by using the poll feature within Instagram stories, where you give them an option. Would you rather this or that? Have you listened to the episode? Heck yes, already listened. Do you want me to send you this? Heck yes, already have it. You're giving them options to raise their hand so that when they raise their hand and you can see it in the poll who has hit the poll saying, heck yes, I want it or already have it, now you can have that conversation in DMs and drop a live link to them in order to get whatever it is that you're talking about. Whether it is that face cream that you would like them to be able to buy, maybe with an affiliate link, or if it's your new book or a new podcast episode, or even just a new recipe that you've come out with. It gives them an opportunity to raise their hands and start that conversation. And what you will see is not only will you be able to drop that live link and get some traffic going directly to your site, but you're going to continue that conversation, asking them more about what it is about that recipe that they really like, or what is it about that face cream that they were interested in. Because when you have those conversations, it does a couple different things. One, it builds that, again, the brand with your audience. And two, it affects the algorithm. Because when Instagram sees you in people's DMs and having a conversation going back and forth, they assume that you're friends, and that person then wants to see your content. So what Instagram is going to do is now they're going to put your content into that person's feed because you've had these interactions via DM. So it's not just about giving a live link, trying to get traffic, but again, it's building that engagement, building that sense of community so that you can really better understand what your people need and also can continue to provide them with. Now, the other piece that goes along with this is that it matters to brands. Instagram matters, and it matters for a number of reasons. But a recent article in WebFX talked about that 86% of top brands are now using Instagram on a regular basis. They also are seeing that they get 56 times more in interaction than they do on Facebook, and they get 120 times more interaction than they do on Twitter. So brands are seeing that the interaction that they get on Instagram is that much stronger. So if they're seeing that as a brand, they of course understand that bloggers and influencers that are using it are also seeing the same thing. And as we've talked about many times before, when brands want to work with you on sponsored content in order for you to create something that they're going to pay you up front for, in order for you to promote it on social or put it up on your blog. They want to understand your audience better. And if they know that they can see more interaction on Instagram than they can on Twitter, than they can on Facebook, then of course they're going to want it. That is why when it comes to Instagram mattering, there's so many pieces of this that come into it. Not only do you have the opportunity, like we talked about, to build your brand, get that engagement with your audience, but then you can leverage it for sponsored work. And as many of you have heard me talk about, I talk about sponsored work and how, as a blogger, I was able to replace my teaching salary back in 2015 and retire from teaching because I was making the majority of my money from sponsored posts. You are now able to do that even more so. because brands are wanting to see not only the blog side of things, but they also want to see the Instagram side of things. They want to see the engagement. They want to see the interaction, and they understand that the data that they're going to pull from Instagram is that much more important. So if you haven't put time into Instagram, if you have seen it as it's a photo sharing app, I'm not getting a ton of likes, I'm not getting a ton of comments, then you need to stop just using it as a photo sharing app for the traditional feed and start thinking about, how can I incorporate reels? How can I use stories? What will this look like in order for me to truly show my personal side, my personal brand to my audience? That's what this is supposed to be about. It's the opportunity to really engage with those that you probably have lost a sense of connection with over the years if you've been doing this for a while. And if you're newer, it gives you the opportunity to really, truly understand what your people need from you. Talk to them. Use Instagram stories. Use the poll feature like we talked about back in episode 184. It's going to really provide that opportunity where people understand what you are about, and you can then give them what they need in order to solve their problem. Too many times we see influencers and bloggers just putting up content and throwing it up against the wall like wet spaghetti, expecting it just to stick and hoping it will stick. Instead, if we took that time, instead of just creating content willy-nilly, and we had a conversation with the people that are actually following us for our content, we would see that they would provide us with content and answers as far as the problems that they need solved, so that they would actually want what we're going to put out, because you're having those conversations with them. If you haven't already grabbed that Instagram engagement guide that I talked about in the beginning, I want you to make sure that you grab that. It is going to make a difference. If you are wanting to make sponsored income a portion and diversifying your income with sponsored work, then it's going to be really important that you make sure that you put some effort into Instagram so that it can make all the difference to your income that's coming in. I want you to send me that DM on Instagram at Jenny_Melrose, and I will make sure to send the guide over to you. As always, I appreciate you guys so much for listening in. Instagram is definitely a piece of your business. Again, I want to make sure that I reiterate at the end here that it is not the only place that you should be building your business, but it should be a piece of it. So that if you are someone that has wanted to do sponsored work and you want to understand how you can incorporate a blog and Instagram and social and what does that look like, then using this to kind of combine it together is going to help you. As always, if you haven't already left a review on your favorite podcasting app, I would so appreciate it if you would do so. It helps to keep great guests coming on, providing amazing information to all of you so you can continue to grow your businesses. And I hope to see you all next time.